Hello my friends, so I welcome you in today's session and I send you all love and light and I welcome you in the love light of the one creator. And after watching the session, I don't know why, but I'm just feeling really good after listening to the session. Maybe you'll feel the same, I believe maybe it's because of the energies, or maybe because because of knowing the truth, okay? Like you have to listen, okay? Use your discernment, and if it resonates, accept the message. But I found this session to be like so damn interesting, and I have written down what they have explained in the session. I've written it down over here because this session was like full of information, okay? Like it's really like wonderful session. And in this session, they talk about how we can prepare for what's coming on 11/11, right? So on 11/11, we already know that it's a wonderful portal which we can use to enter into this higher vibration state. And if we are able to maintain it for a certain period of time, the collective consciousness, okay, will enter into the fourth density vibration, they have said. And they have explained one method we can use in this time period, how we can prepare for that day. So they describe that method in the session. In the beginning portion, they talk about that. And also they talk about one thing which I found really interesting is they talk about the difference between how beings on the fourth density they operate, okay, versus how the beings on the third density they operate. So they talk about the difference of how the beings on the fourth density use their mind, body and spirit versus the beings on third density, how we have been using the mind, body and the spirit. So they talk about this, and I found this really interesting as well in the session, right? So the other thing, okay, like I actually wanted to ask about the metaverse thing, and it turns out there is a huge deception going on, okay? Like this is huge, okay? Like Facebook, Mark Zucherberg, and the mainstream media, they will never say anything like bad about metaverse which is being created. And for those who do not know what this metaverse is they are creating this artificial world wherein you can I believe what they're making is like a virtual reality kind of world which will have the ability of you going into nature without having to actually go into nature, or if you want to travel to some place, you don't need to go anywhere, you just need to sit in your home. Even they said that even Mark Zuckerberg was saying that we don't need to go to office, we don't need to go to school, we can just sit in our room, put the VR headset on, and we'll feel like we're in the office, right? So yeah, I think this is one of the biggest deceptions which is going on right now. And they explain, look, okay, in this session, I always felt like, Mark Zuckerberg, maybe there was something in his past, right? So they also talk about the past life of Mark Zuckerberg, and this will blow your mind away, okay? Like how Mark Zuckerberg started to work for the negative entity. It's crazy, okay? And the information from the past life is also very informative. I'll explain about that after this session. So I hope you will love the session and you will find this informative. And before we begin the session, I will like to say thank you to all of you who like the video, because it helps it to reach more people. So with that being said, let's begin the session. We are the Pleiadians, and we are now communicating through this instrument for the purpose of sharing our thoughts and guidance without infringing upon the free will that has been granted by the one infinite creator. Our purpose of maintaining this communication is simply to provide each being on the earth planets who desire with the guidance required to enter into a vibration of a higher nature, and with using the free will of discernment and the free will to choose and accept the thought forms which they can entertain on this environment is required for each being on the planetary sphere must deeply understand the inner workings of the self. Furthermore, before we start this communication, we would like to warn you that you should only accept insights which provide you with a deeper
sense of resonance and leave behind those thought forms which do not resonate with your inner self. For this is vitally important for you to preserve and to conserve in the illusion complex in which you find yourself in. Today's query pertains to how the so-called entities on your planetary sphere, those who desire to be of service to Mother Earth, as well as service to the cosmic layer of consciousness, which is now rising, can be of service, and how can beings on your planet prepare for the coming event on 11/11. As stated earlier by an entity known as Metatron magnetic consciousness in the earlier sessions through this instrument, the significance of 11/11 is vitally important, as it is an important time which allows beings on your planetary sphere to have the communications and the required vibrations which are aligning together with the planetary vibrations. This provides the planet Earth's vibrations to align with that of the human vibration collective consciousness. By alignment, there is a much larger effect on the consciousness. And this is one of the moments in your time continuum wherein beings on your planet who desire to enter faster into the spiral of the new Earth can use this portal to broadcast the energy of already being in the new Earth, as each being will broadcast this energy of being in the new Earth with an intention or an image in the mind complex of already walking through the new Earth. They will then begin to understand how this will attract the timeline of the new Earth faster, as more people are able to do it in a orderly manner together with an number of around 7,000 beings on your planet who are able to perform this together will lead to the Earth planet drastically entering into the spiral of consciousness. Thereby, the whole Earth planet's energy will drastically change even after the so-called such meditations if performed by your people on this 11/11. We shall now share one method which can be used by entities on your planet who desire to be of service at this time. For the process is simply to understand the difference between how the so-called mind-body-spirit operates on the third density consciousness and how the mind, body and spirit operates in a fourth density New Earth planetary sphere. For the difference is simply in the allowance of how the energies of the focused attention work. On the third density planetary sphere of your Earth planet, we are of the opinion that many beings on your planets operate with the perspective of using their thought forms in a large number of volume during the waking daytime, and because they are engaged in their thought forms during the waking daytime, most often they forget to observe the energies of their bodily complex. This leads to the imbalances many a times inside the bodily complex, and the mind, body and spirit becomes imbalanced. Furthermore, in the fourth density New Earth consciousness, beings are already aware of how to use the mind, body and spirit connection. For in the New Earth, beings on other planets as well as beings on the Earth planet in the timeline of New Earth, they begin to separate their focus of attention into two parts. During the sleep time or during the meditative states, they focus their attention on the mind complex and using of thought forms to create the emotions required, and for the energy work to be conducted by using the imagination during such sleep states or during the meditative states, and after they wake up from such meditation and dream states during the waking daytime, they are able to focus their attention on the bodily energies of emotions, and the body complex is full of energy. As each entity on the New Earth can focus this attention on the body complex during the waking daytime, they will begin to feel the energy shifting within the body throughout the day when they encounter many different types of events. This is how the New Earth paradigm operates. We shall now share the process of a simple so-called meditative process which will allow each being on your planet to perform and do so and enter into a timeline of New Earth easily. For this process, it is vitally important that each being on the planetary sphere use its own free will to enter into the meditative state, into the void wherein there is only pure consciousness, and let go of any attachments by focusing only on the void, to let go of even the names, the labels, and the objects which your mind has identified in the third density illusion. By entering into this meditative state of consciousness and by letting go of those temporary aspects of attachments of the mind, there will be an emptiness which will be met. This is the pure consciousness or the observer who can observe even the emptiness or the void without any attachments. And in that state of disattachment and in that state of pure consciousness, beings on your planet can then bring forth an image of walking into the new earth and then slowly in the meditative state walk through the new earth physically, but with their eyes closed and the imagination actively creating the new earth and feeling the feelings will allow the entities on the earth planet to drastically switch timelines of the new earth, and more entities are able to do this together. They will begin to transition higher. Also, after the creation of the energy of emotion to a satisfaction of each being can be followed by the cycling of the oxygen as known by your people, or the breath from the lower energy centers through to the upper energy centers by breathing fully. And this will allow the energy centers to be rejuvenated like turning on a light switch. Many beings on your planet only breathe half, and hence the full process of tuning into the full activation of the energy centers is not done many a times. This is the most important process which can be followed at this space-time to allow beings on your planet to enter into a higher spiral of fourth density, New Earth consciousness. Now we shall share our thought forms pertaining to the so-called meta object or the universe of artificial intelligence which is being created by an entity known as Mark Zuckerberg. In this regard, we are of the opinion that this entity known as Mark Zuckerberg, for fully understanding the full functioning of this meta universe or metaverse as being created by this entity, we must share with you what this entity conducted or did in the past incarnation of this entity on the planet Atlantis. Hence, we are now going to share with you, for the purpose of understanding, a brief synopsis of the past incarnation of this entity known as Mark Zuckerberg. This entity originated on the planet known as Maldek around 3 million years ago. In that space-time, this entity spent the first density incarnation learning the lessons like many entities in the form of elementals. And after a period of 200,000 years of learning the lessons of beingness, graduated into the second density consciousness, wherein this entity in the second density began to learn the lessons of awareness in the form of plant life forms and switching into the pet life forms of the Maldek planet. This furthermore prepared this entity for the third density of self-awareness, and in the Maldek planet this entity chose the path of negative polarity in the third density consciousness beginning sub-octave. And because this entity chose the path of negative polarity, this was its own choice, and as we have already stated before, there are choices which can be made, and the choices both positive and negative are valid as they are serving the one creator. This entity chose the path of negative polarity of serving the self, and this entity worked with the so-called reptilians as well as the other negative-oriented entities because it was more interested in serving the self. In the planet Maldek, this entity also created a large amount of mechanical devices at that space-time, which led to the creation of wars in the planet Maldek. And because this entity had created such havoc on planet Maldek, it was then transported to the lands of Atlantis. In the lands of Atlantis, it had incarnated in the form of a physical vehicle of undesirable nature, in order to repay the karma collected from the planet Maldek. This entity's incarnation on the Atlantis planet occurred around a period of 45,000 years ago, as per the space-time measurement terms, and in that Atlantis planetary sphere, it had incarnated in the form of a physical vehicle of undesirable nature. However, because of its orientation towards negative polarity, this entity was heavily assisted by the reptilians, which the reptilians were able to abduct this entity in the planet Atlantis, and after conducting the abduction of this entity, they were able to genetically modify this entity's physical vehicle to become more capable, and hence this entity made soul contracts with the reptilians who had given him new life and new bodily complex of a new nature. Since that day forward, this entity has been working for the reptilians, and this entity created a similar type of device on the planet Earth at the space-time of Atlantis, in which many beings were engrossed in this spiritual. We correct this entity in the so-called technological device created by this instrument with the aid of the reptilians. This created a diversification between the two types of beings on the planet Atlantis, one who were spiritually adept and the others who were technologically involved. And because of such a device which was created by this entity, and this divide led to the war in Atlantis, which immediately led to the destruction of the Atlantis lands because of technological advancement too much and not focusing on the spiritual side, led to the destruction of Atlantis. And now this entity has reincarnated onto the Earth planet. This entity then for the first time incarnated on the Earth planet as a human mind, body and spirit complex for the purpose of sharing and for the purpose of working with the so-called reptilians and their objective. In the first incarnation on the human planetary sphere, this entity incarnated on the timeline as known by your people as 1889 and was known by the name of Thomas Midgley. In this incarnation also, this entity worked largely for the purpose of the reptilians and created a large amount of technological devices which harmed not only the ozone layer of your planetary sphere, but also created a large amount of technological devices which harmed the planet Earth. This entity in that incarnation crossed over on 1944. And after spending some healing time on the astral plane, this entity again has incarnated on the Earth planets on 1984 as Mark Zucherberg for the purpose of working with the reptilians. Since this entity has already signed many soul contracts with the reptilians, this entity is now working for the creation of this device, which is known as the device of Meta, which can allow beings on your planet to use this technology to go to any places in the mind complex. What this will do in essence will allow entities to become trapped inside this environment of artificially created environments and beings because of their mind, body and spirit working together in tandem in the real world. Since the mind is now, if with the desire they choose to stay in the metaverse most of the time, they will begin to create all karmic connections and emotions in the metaverse, and hence their soul also will become entrapped inside the metaverse. Hence this is in essence not a positive type of thing which has been created, for the people of your planet must understand the significance of this event. This is the final ploy of the negative entities to control humanity. and we as the Pleiadians are here to offer the warning. We'll leave you now. Bye.
So my friends, after watching the session, I hope you got the basic understanding of what is happening on our planet at this time, right? So in essence, what they said was, to prepare for what is happening on the 11th, what they said is we can use, process of emptying our mind and entering into the void state, okay? And when we enter into this void, we can then, in the void, we can then keep our mind totally empty, and then we can, bring forth any of the, like any of our imagination sequences, or we can even walk in the new earth. So last time, we did the meditation of walking into, new energies, and it was like, wow, right? That session was, that meditation was wonderful. So almost similar to that, but in today's session, what they said is we have to use, something known as the breathing into the 7 chakras. Okay, so this is important. And also, they talk about the method, which we can use is to breathe through our chakras. So normally we are breathing in our lower portions. If we are conscious of our breathing patterns, we may be aware that most of us just breathe in our lower energy centers, and we don't like breathe like to the top, right? So I believe what they said in the session is during the meditation, after the creation of the after the creation of the emotion of already being in the new earth, right? Then we need to breathe through the energy centers, like turning the light switch. So I think it's simple, like just breathe to the top, okay? Not only like half, but breathe to the top, and it will like activate all the energy centers. And this was like wonderful. I have never heard about this anywhere before. And other thing they talk about in the session is, this is really interesting. They talk about, like how in the 4th density, right? Now I will give you an example. In the 3rd density, like many of you will agree that we are, during our waking daytime, we are mostly focused on our thought forms, what we need to do today, what we need to do tomorrow, what happened yesterday, we are thinking too much, like, many people, we are using our mind to do something and stuff like that. We are using our egoic self to do something, interact with people, and that also creates a large amount of separation. So in the new earth energies, what they have said is, beings in the new earth, they become aware of this, okay? And in essence, instead of focusing on the mind, they focus on the body, the energy of the body. And I was like, wow, this stuff is deep, right? So what they said is in new earth, how beings operate is during the sleep time and during the meditative state, they use their mind to create the emotions or what they want, using imagination, using internal voice, only during the sleep time or during the meditative state, okay? Whenever they are doing energy work, only during that time they will use the mind. And once the body has the emotion, during the daytime, they'll focus on the body. Like, this stuff is like really good, okay? I believe, I'm going to try this, and I think it will feel wonderful, to try that, to just let go of my mind and to focus on my body. And the other thing they talk about in this session is about the past lives of Michael Jackson. Now look, sorry, not Michael Jackson, I'm so sorry. Past life of Mark Zuckerberg. Okay? So, they talk about how Mark Zuckerberg, started on planet Maldek, and how, they give us the description of the time frame and stuff. I hope you listen to the session. It's very hard to say right now. And, initially what happened was that, Mark Zuckerberg, when he reached into the 3rd density, right, in the Maldek planet, and, at that time, he chose the pathway of negative polarity of service to self. So that's how he got started with the reptilians and the negative entities vibrations, right? So in Maldek also, he had created some type of, thing which created war in Maldek, and I believe, like it led to the destruction of Maldek. I don't know, right? And then the other thing they said is also in Atlantis, Mark Zuckerberg incarnated in Atlantis again. okay, to repay the karma from planet Maldek. But in Atlantis, what happened was that he was abducted by the negative entities and he was given a new body. Okay, now for the purpose of paying his karma, he had incarnated into a body which was damaged, or I believe he had incarnated into a body which was not functioning well. I mean, differently abled body. Okay, so Mark Zucherberg was given a new physical vehicle by genetic modification by the reptilians, and from that day I think he made soul contract with the reptilians to work with them. From that point, he has been working, and in Atlantis also, okay, he created this technology, they said, which in essence divided two groups of people. One was technologically savvy, technologically influenced, and one was spiritual people. It led to the war of these two groups, and it led to the destruction of Atlantis. So this person is like, wow, right? So I'm not saying that this is like what can I say, like, I mean, this stuff is like really deep. And also they said his previous incarnation was, I have written it down, then after Atlantis, okay, he incarnated on the Earth planet again in 1889, they said, and his name was Thomas, I believe. This is what they said. And in that life cycle also, I need to search about this, okay, because I have not done the research. I just finished the session, and yeah, they said, in that lifetime also, in the Earth planet, in the previous lifetime, okay, he created this like technological device which created a large amount of damage on the Earth planet. Like, wow, right? I need to search about who this person was. I believe he was a well-known person. And now Mark Zuckerberg has incarnated on 1984. And lo and behold, he's doing something, I believe, like he's trying to, help the reptilians create this device kind of thing and entrap humanity. And they said the Metaverse thing is kind of like a soul trapper which can trap souls and stuff. And it's really like scary to know this, okay? And anyways, in any case, thank you all so much for supporting me on Patreon, where I'm able to share uncensored content. And also thank you all for sending me emails regarding your past incarnations. So whenever I get free time, I'll definitely help you out, because I want to help people, with this stuff. It really helps a lot of people. I've received messages from people stating that it has helped them change their life around. It has helped them change their energy. It does work, and I thank you all for your support. For this is a new thing. Like I don't know, like I have not seen like many people do this, but this is, I believe we are doing something new, and I thank you all so much. Until next time, see you again.